Hey everybody, it's Mike Frieder here with On-Call Compliance Solutions, and I'm back with another compliance tip of the week. Today we're talking about DFARS, NIST SP 800-171, and CMMC, the different levels of assessment and how the SPRS score actually works. So hey, if you're a defense contractor who's feeling overwhelmed, tired, and alone, trying to understand all of this DFARS, NIST SP 800-171, and CMMC compliance stuff, I've got great news for you. You found your home here at On-Call Compliance Solutions, where we can help you transform into your company's on-call compliance hero. Let's jump into it. This is going to be a great one today, and I'm really excited to bring this to you. So today we're going to tackle one of the most misunderstood elements of how NIST SP 800-171 compliance actually works, how it is assessed, and how the SPRS score comes into play and how it's developed. And of course, after watching this video, vendor scare just won't work on you. No more scare tactics. You're going to really know how this stuff works. I promise it's going to be very, very valuable to you. So in our experience, the fact is that most companies in the defense industrial base know they need to get compliant. But the reality is that just understanding the laws and compliance controls is extremely difficult. Like just square one of understanding this stuff is hard. Most defense companies don't even try to actually look deeper into this to understand how this will actually be evaluated or assessed. So today, I thought what I would do is, as we always do here at On Call, shed a little bit of light on a critical area of compliance and tell you how this actually gets assessed and how it actually all works. And what you need to know right now, if you're a company that's required to be compliant with all of this DFARS, NIST SP 800-171, and CMMC stuff. So the first thing to understand is that there are two different kinds of assessment. As a matter of fact, actually, there's three different kinds of assessments that are in play for defense contractors. First is the NIST SP 800-171 assessment. That is based off of the NIST SP 800-171A, the official NIST SP 800-171 assessment guide, and CMMC certification, which we'll get into second, because it basically does not exist right now until the laws change. And throughout this video, I'm going to make sense of why I said there's there's three different kinds of assessment, and I'm going to go through all of that, which right now is about a year away at least. So again, CMMC assessment, you're more than a year away from it, and realistically, it is definitely something you need to be ready for, but I'm going to show you why you really don't have to worry about it in this video, okay? So all those vendors out there trying to freak you out with you need to be CMMC compliant right now, something's wrong, and I'm going to show you why. By the way, if you want a fun drinking game, every time I say NIST SP 800-171, take a drink. All right, let's get rolling. Currently, under the law, you are required to perform, although don't do that drinking game if you're at work, because chances are pretty good you're probably at work. I hope you're not watching my videos like during your spare time at home, because you've got better things to do, right? Hey, look, this stuff's giving you nightmares. Just give us a call. We can make your life a whole lot easier. And I don't know, maybe you take away one of those reasons to drink. But meanwhile, on with the drinking game. All right, currently under the law, you're required to perform a NIST SP 800-171 self-assessment, which is considered to be a basic assessment, okay? So self-assessment equals basic assessment. Now, there are three levels of assessment for NIST SP 800-171, right? So two different kinds of assessment, a NIST and a CMMC, and then there's three different levels of NIST. And I'm not even going to get into the different levels of CMMC. There's 1, 2, 3. Kind of like the count, right? 1, 2, 3. Except it's CMMC. All right, I digress. You can tell I have little kids. Hey, I like to make little kid jokes. We all got to get through this together, right? All right, now, three different levels of assessment for NIST SP 800-171. Take a drink. Each assessment type will finalize in a score called an SPRS score or a system security plan score. No one's ever really actually figured out which one it particularly is. It's really an SSP score that you enter into the SPRS system, but somewhere along the way people got confused and they just started calling it an SPRS score. Why? Because you enter it into the SPRS system. If you're wondering what the SPRS system is, it's the Supplier Performance Risk System for the DoD. What is that, Mike? I'm going to tell you. SPRS is a system which tells procurement officers how much risk as a vendor you may represent to them in terms of information security when doing business with you. The three types of assessment are a basic, 1, a medium, 2, and a high 3. Those levels relate to how much the DoD procurement personnel actually believe that your score or SPRS score is an accurate reflection of the risk you present when doing business with DoD as a vendor. Okay, so how risky are you to do business with? So what is a basic score? Well, a basic score is a score from a self-assessment that you enter in yourself. So you enter that score, you're the one entering a basic score. The score should be created based on the DoD's NIST SP 800-171 take a drink assessment methodology, which can be found online. That's right, you can Google it.
Go to Google Earth and type in your address.
NIST SP 800-171 assessment methodology. Okay, it was really, that was an extra one I threw in there, but the drinking game is really fun. One of the most misunderstood and most missed aspects of the basic score is that it is not a score which is based on what you actually have implemented today. That is not the intent of the law or NIST SP 800-171. In fact, if you actually look at the details of what it says, a basic SPRS score is a reflection of which controls you have addressed in your system security plan and which controls you are deficient for, which you have come up with doable solutions for and addressed in your plan of action and milestones. As we advise our clients, there is a reason that what is required is called a system security plan, not a system security, this is what you have in place right now. Otherwise, it would be called a system security, this is what you have in place right now. And believe me, whatever that is, SSTIWYH, they would love to have that kind of an acronym if there was any possible way to make this thing even more complicated. But they didn't. It's just called a plan, which means you need a plan, not necessarily something in place. Very, very critical to understand. So many people get this wrong. So many people, so many vendors get excessive spending because they just completely misunderstood this whole thing or thought they needed to do things that they didn't need to do. Again, it's called a system security plan. Now, what makes a lot of this so confusing is that there are so many vendors out there promising that if you use their solution, then you will have an increased score within SPRS. Well, I can't explain that one. But simply put, for a basic assessment, which is what is required by law, that does not make much sense to us. You just have to have a plan and know how you are going to fix things. And of course, those issues should be resolved as soon as possible. But that also takes into account the time and money involved in resolving those issues. More on that later. If you want proof of this concept, imagine this. You can be required to be compliant for a network that will not even exist unless you actually win the DoD contract or work from your prime. Think about that for a second. Now, all of a sudden, this starts to make way more sense why this is actually required as the plan and all required documentation of how you will be compliant, but not necessarily a requirement on having it in place. Because, hey, it may not even exist at all, right? Because you got to win the work to stand up the network in some cases. Boom. Mind equals blown. And now, all of a sudden, all these vendors out there trying to sell you into these big, nasty, recurring monthly subscriptions for compliance solutions, well, if they haven't done some heavy-duty discovery on your situation like we do in our compliance consultations, well, it just doesn't seem that logical that they would really be able to correctly scope out your needs before you actually buy their stuff. Yeah, we should probably do some discovery and actually get all the plans and documentation in place first. Then, once we know how we're going to solve for it, then maybe we can start spending money. But not until then. Oh, no. Trust Uncle Mikey. You don't want to do that. Something to think of. That's a huge reason why when you work with us at OnCall, we never require any kind of long-term commitment. No monthly payments or any of that other garbage. It just doesn't make sense before we've put your entire plan together and decided how we are going to actually solve this before you start putting out money on solutions, okay? If you're talking right now to a vendor who is a solutions type vendor, they want to sell you like an email connector or they want to sell you some other thing that's going to quote unquote get you compliant, and they're not the ones writing your system security plan, and they're not the ones writing your plan of action milestones, and they're not the ones providing you with the documentation, run for the hills. Something's wrong. You're not going to actually wind up compliant when you finish with them. You're just going to have a solution, and that might not be the whole puzzle, which means You might be in for a lot of excessive spending that you weren't budgeting for, and all kinds of other stuff. There is a definitive way to go out and solve this, and it doesn't start with you buying a solution. It starts with you getting your plan in order. It starts with you doing the documentation. It starts with you doing a gap analysis on what you've already got. It starts way before you ever purchase any kind of compliance solution. And by the way, here's a hint. A lot of our clients, they don't even have to purchase anything afterwards. Think about that. Now, it just doesn't make sense before we've got your entire plan together and decide how we are going to actually solve this before you start putting out money on solutions. Personally, I wouldn't recommend going with any vendor solution before you have been through a consultative process like ours to determine what you actually need up front. Otherwise, you are almost guaranteed excessive spending on the wrong solutions. And guys, to be honest with you, I've seen some really heartbreaking situations, like situations that we've gone in and spent 2 or 3 days with a vendor to unravel the last 2 years worth of work and a lot of spending that a company did and still weren't even close to compliant. And we can correct that in 2 to 3 days for most cases, maybe an extra day or two if you've got a whole bunch of locations, 1 or 2 days for each location sort of thing. It doesn't take that long. It's not that intensive of a process. And the real key is we've done it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, so you're not exactly our first rodeo. Think about it. Okay, now that we have a solid understanding of the basic assessment, I think it's time to jump up a notch and talk about the medium assessment, where things get a little more serious. So, the medium assessment is an assessment that is completed by actual DoD personnel. Yes, they exist. Yes, they are real people. They really will audit you. No defense contractor or private company can conduct a medium or high assessment. Okay, I'm sure you are likely asking yourself, well, what's the likelihood of me actually getting a medium assessment? And the answer is, I have no idea, because I don't know what you're working on. There are no statistics available regarding how often medium assessments are done. They keep that stuff private. However, I can definitely tell you that we've been a part of helping several of our clients through medium assessments. We've been there. They are very real. We've gone through plenty of them. They do exist. That means your chances of having to go through one, well, they're very real. Now, generally speaking, medium assessments take place when there are higher than normal concerns around information security. Examples of this may be when there are confidential or high-level designs or a product or a facility involved in the work being performed, or when work being performed may involve on-site interaction with the military, right? So maybe your work takes place on a military base. That is about as much as I can publicly say on the topic, as this information is already publicly available. The reality is that every defense contract is open to audit at both a medium and high level, and honestly, it's really not safe to give out a whole lot more detail than that, other than, again, everybody's at risk. So what is it like being audited in a medium level NIST SP 800-171 audit? Is it scary? Should you hide under the bed if you find out one is coming for you? Maybe. Is under your bed a great place to be while it's going on? Well, my friends, I have great news. It turns out that none of these fears are really real, especially if you've done what you're supposed to do and are complying with NIST SP 800-171. As it turns out, medium level audits are super easy to go through actually. Essentially what happens is you are contacted by the Defense Contract Management Agency, or DCMA, by specialized personnel from a department called DIBCAC. Those are the cool cyber guys, and I'd go into what the acronym means, but who cares? They're there to audit you, and it'll be very clear. Those are the special agents from the DoD trained in assessing NIST SP 800-171. What they are going to ask for is a copy of your system security plan, and only your system security plan. Nothing else. They're not asking for a POAM. They're not asking for anything else. Then they're going to go through the plan, looking at your answers to the plan and assessing that plan against the NIST SP 800-171A assessment guide. I think there's around 327 or so assessment points, somewhere in there. I'm probably, drop it in the comments below. It's probably not 327, but it's really close to that. It's about 327 assessment points, and they are comparing your answers against. They are then going to redline anywhere in the plan, control answers, right? Your system security plan, the answers to all those different controls that you are not giving an adequate or vague answer to. They're going to send it back to you full of red ink and tell you to fix it like a school teacher hell-bent on making you have great handwriting. That's what it's like. And if your R's don't have enough curve to them, well, they're going to hit that too. Via email, that's usually how these take place. It's a back and forth email transaction. That's kind of it. You'll go back and forth until all of your SSP answers satisfy the assessor, and then they will enter a medium level score for you back in SPRS, and it's based on your system security plan score answers. That's it. That's the medium assessment. Boogeyman's out of the closet. Turns out, it's not so bad after all. I've helped with tons of those medium assessments. Okay, it's usually a really nice, cordial back and forth. It's not really a huge deal as long as you've got great answers for all of your controls, right? As long as you're giving them what they want and there's a lot of specificity in there and you're hitting all the assessment points, no problem at all. And that's basically it. That's the whole medium level assessment. And again, per the DoD assessment guide, the system security plan is all they are looking at here to make sure that you have done adequate planning in line with NIST SP 800-171 requirements. I know what you're thinking, and you're right. Wait a minute, Mike. You're telling me in a medium assessment done by real DoD people, they are not even looking at my system? Yes. Yes, my friends. According to the assessment guide, that is correct. A medium assessment by DoD personnel doesn't even look at your system. It just looks at your system security plan. Now we're starting to really get into the heart of what this is all about. It's not about what you have right now, unless what you're working on is so incredibly critical that it needs to be inspected. We'll get into that, because by now you're likely breathing a small sigh of relief. You're thinking to yourself, hey, wait a minute, this isn't so bad after all. And it isn't. As long as you only get hit with a medium level assessment and you prove to them that you're SSP, you have your stuff together. And that's when we start diving into the high level audit. Oh yeah, the high level audit performed by the Department of Defense's DCMA DIBCAC team, which, by the way, I could have said DoD's DCMA DIBCAC team, but that might have been a few too many syllables and abbreviated words, and well, there's already enough government talk in this whole thing anyway. So I can't even count that. I can't count that many letters. I don't even know, and it really means something important, but it's just a bunch of letters. Anyway, it's very complex. They're very, very nice people. As long as you're on the right side of the law. So what is it like having a high-level audit? Well, my friends, a high-level audit is the real deal. So if you are the lucky recipient of a DoD, DCMA, DIBCAC, NIST SP 800-171, take a drink, high-level audit, well, then you have a few short weeks to prepare. Wait. What? Prepare? Yes. You are generally going to be given a few weeks' notice to prepare for a high-level audit. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, wait, Mike, they don't fly the Black Hawk helicopters over my office and propel down onto my roof and drop in the bathroom at the worst possible time? No. Not that I've ever heard of. We've heard of a lot. Now, what's going to happen is that a team from the DoD is going to come to your place of business on a predetermined date at a pre-specified time. Wherever you tell them to go, not the other way around. You tell them where your office is and where you're going to go meet. And they hang out with you for a week or so and thoroughly go through your system. Okay? They interview your people, the ones that are administrating the systems that are affected by the various compliance controls. And they do some shoulder surfing, whatever that is, where they look over your shoulder like a creepy person. It's YouTube, so I have to be very careful about what I say, but creepy shoulder surfing. Perhaps they perform a cavity search maybe not a cavity search. And otherwise go through roughly 320 plus assessment points to actually verify that you are meeting those requirements. That's the real deal, all right? That's probably what you're expecting on the basic assessment. Turns out, nope, that's not it. Now, I am not going to get deeply into everything that is involved because it is quite extensive. The goal of this video is just to give you some basic insights into the idea that NIST SP 800-171 can be audited in 3 different ways by different people, and the system security plan scores can actually mean different things. Oh, and I forgot to say this, but there's a whole nother agency besides DoD's DCMA DIBCAC team. They're called the DCSA, the Defense Counterintelligence Security Agency, and they have their own team that can also do these audits. But I'll be really honest with you, that's more kind of unheard of. I haven't ever heard of those people doing an actual audit. It just says that they can in the assessment methodology. Out of hundreds and hundreds of clients, I've just never actually seen them do an audit themselves. Hey, you know what? If you've seen it, drop it in the comments below. I'd love to know about it. I'd love to learn more. But again, DIBCAC, those are the guys that are actually out there doing it that we've seen in the field. Now, in this case, few, if any, contractors we have ever heard of actually went through a high-level audit and received anything close to a score of 110 out of 110. Yet, many contractors have gone through basic and medium-level audits and received perfect scores for the work they had performed on their plans and documentation. Interestingly, I won't say exact scores, but we'll just say that scores in the mid-50s and 60s and 70s the client was complimented on how high that score was. That ought to tell you something about the difference between how a high-level score is done and how a basic and medium-level score is done. So again, the high-level score is an assessment of your actual implementation, and it is an important knowledge nugget that a high-level in-person or high-level virtual audit is the only audit that actually looks at your implementation. Everything else is assessed on documentation only, per the DoD's assessment guide. With all of this in mind, we finally come to the often talked about, often misunderstood CMMC certification audit. Ah, yes, the much overhyped future of information security in the defense world. So, what is a CMMC certification audit like? Well, the first thing I'll tell you is that the process is not 100% official, and it is not 100% formalized. I think we are probably around a year away from that based on what the lawmakers are currently saying right now, and a year is not a very far away time. I'll tell you, if you've been married once or twice, like I have, well then you know, a year's not very long. The answer is that a CMMC certification audit should be identical in many ways to a DoD-conducted high-level NIST SP 800-171 audit. Generally speaking, it's the same assessment guide, criteria, and should be a highly similar process. In fact, the current beta testing process where certified assessors like me are allowed to perform joint surveillance with a DIBCAC team signifies that basically what this is the government reaching out for help from the private sector to verify that defense companies are actually secure and doing what they are supposed to do. So, with the exception of some behind-the-scenes formalities that I'm not going to go into right now, CMMC certification will be bringing NIST SP 800-171 high-level audit capacity to a substantially higher level than ever before. The good news? Well, the good news here is that if you have done what you're supposed to have done and gotten compliant and implemented everything you're supposed to, well, none of this is really very scary at all, is it? Now, just a few closing thoughts. I think all of this leaves a big gaping question to be answered, which is once you get compliant and have a plan of action with milestones, and you've rolled out all your training, all that other good stuff, how long do you have to actually get your temporary deficiencies fixed? Well, there are two answers, because this whole thing couldn't be any easier, right? And it couldn't be any more clear. The first answer, according to the assessment guide, as long as you have your ducks in a row, SSP complete, POAM complete, documentation complete, you've rolled it out, you're done with everything except remediating those temporary deficiencies, those things you're not compliant with, well then in regard to those areas where you have deficiencies, you should be resolving them, quote unquote, all right, air quotes, as soon as reasonably possible, taking into account that the cost and time to fix them. Generally, temporary deficiencies should be resolved as soon as is reasonable. Now, I have to tell you that I've seen lead paint that is more clear than what they wrote in that document. Let's be honest, it's just not really all that clear. It's pretty freaking vague. But my job is to bring clarity and truth to all of this and eliminate the confusion for you. So I will provide you with another litmus test, which is that many contracts over the last 24 months have been proactively coming with a provision that states that you should have all temporary deficiencies resolved no later than 180 days or 6 months from the date of contract award. That is, no open POAM items by 180 days. That is the law if it is written into your contract. But again, not the current law, but they are writing it into contracts right now. So that is what is coming when the CMMC law changes. But in a lot of cases, they're being very proactive about that and manually writing that into contracts right now. So soon, once CMMC certification is added into these contracts in the next year, that rule will also come with a 180-day POAM closeout and resolution as mandatory. With that in mind, my thought is that it is very reasonable for you to know that any deficiency existing more than 180 days could easily be viewed by an assessor as not being resolved in a reasonable amount of time, and it could fail your audit, delay your work, delay payment, and all kinds of other really nasty things that we're trying to keep you guys away from. In fact, if you have been trying to resolve this whole compliance thing for more than 6 months, I'd say it's time to quit banging your head against the wall and just call us, because we can help you get this entire thing solved in just a matter of days. Even if you are a big, huge company or just a wee little company, it doesn't matter. And because, days just sounds so much better than spending the next 2 years of your life just trying to figure this out on your own. So, hey, at On Call, we take defense contractors just like you who have had this DFARS, NIST SP 800-171, and CMMC, ITAR, EAR, information security compliance stuff dropped in their laps like a seagull on a sunny day. And we teach you how to level up and be a proper on-call compliance hero for your company, eliminating gaps, gray areas, and even getting this solved, all while showing you how to, most importantly, leverage compliance as your secret weapon to land more defense work with higher profit margins. Now that is what becoming an on-call compliance hero can do for you. If you're looking for more help getting compliant, our compliance experts are always on call for you. Visit cmmccompliancesecrets.com or check out the description below for links to get help right now. And if you love the content we're putting out here for you, help us out. Seriously, we are so past 2,000 plus subscribers, guys. It just makes us sing and dance a jig when we get new subscribers. It really does keep us going. Again, give us a big thumbs up on that like button, smash that subscribe button, really makes our day. And hey, until the next compliance tip, my friends, stay safe and secure out there. Hit us in the comments below to let us know what you'd like to know more about when it comes to information security and compliance, and I'll see you on the next one.